Hi, I'm Peter Martin. Welcome to PLZ Soccer, and of course this afternoon, as ever, every day we have a look at what's in the newspapers ahead of our soccer show at 4:30 on YouTube, on Facebook and on Twitter Live as well. No surprise, the tabloids today all dealing with this ongoing story with Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace. Yesterday you could see them leaving Ibrox after a quick 2-minute meeting with Stuart Robertson, who basically said that they were suspended pending an investigation. This is of course off the back of the two players allegedly just letting rip at the manager Graham Murty after the 4-0 defeat to Celtic at Hampden on Sunday, and I have to tell you, every tabloid, they're having a real kick at Rangers. It seems to be the fashion at the moment. Everybody's got a say on it. Pundits, former players, everybody's been dragged out to give their opinion on not only the semi-final defeat, but of course this bust up here. And the Sun, again at the top end of it, has got Stiliyan Petrov saying that Rangers are no longer a big club. Now, if that's not a boot where it hurts, then I don't know what is. I'm not sure I agree with Stiliyan Petrov on this. I mean, if you're going to put things in perspective, Rangers are second in the table, battling for second. They're being knocked out of the cup. You have to look at it and wonder about the progress of the Ibrox club. Is it not happening as quickly as supporters want? You are looking at the standard of player that they've recruited. And remember, half these papers were all talking about how great Mark Allen was in the January transfer window when Rangers were still in the Scottish Cup. They were still battling away and getting their noses out in front in second place. And many a journalist was writing that Graham Murty was the man for the job on a full-time basis. Believe me, some of these pundits have turned 180 degrees and suddenly have changed their opinion on this. You can give us your opinion at PLZ Soccer on Twitter and Facebook.com/PLZ Soccer. So Stiliyan Petrov has ladled into it. And of course, the inside story here is basically that Kenny Miller will never kick a ball for Rangers again. It's as simple as that. I spoke to Kenny this morning as well. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash, his part in this. Lee Wallace, well, he's a younger player. There might be some value in selling him on, which is probably why in the summer there'll be a few clubs sniffing around him. I wouldn't be surprised if Hearts actually start to look at their former player and say, well, how much do you want for him? Because Hearts have certainly looked to more experienced players when you consider they've given Stephen McLean a 2-year deal with a view to coaching. So that's the other aspect of this. And Colin Steen, who's a Rangers legend in the Sun, has basically mentioned there's no winner in this when you cross the manager. If you cross that line and you show him a complete lack of respect, then quite simply you're out the door. And Colin Steen, a great player for Rangers, scored in the 1972 Cup Winners' Cup final. He knows a thing or two about some feisty managers. I'm not too sure Lee Wallace or Kenny Miller would have had a go at Jock Wallace and questioned his tactics after a defeat. Jock Wallace would have had both of them up against the wall and in a very precarious position, let me tell you. But nevertheless, times have moved on, and these two players are right behind the 8 ball. And as if to add insult to injury, Kieran Tierney has just basically done a piece in the Sun where he's basically said, we've got winners all over the pitch in our team, even on the bench as well. And remember, this is a situation where a number of people were talking about Rangers closing the gap. I mean, the lunacy of Scottish football at times. You know, 3 or 4 months ago, there was pundits coming on, there was players right, left and centre saying this is closing the gap. Rangers were closing the gap on Celtic, and then suddenly there's a big shift. They've changed their mind. They're not closing the gap. There's the gap's now the size of the Grand Canyon. So you can take your own on that. You can give us your thoughts on it as well with regards to Rangers and what they need to do. I personally said on yesterday's programme in the papers, I can only keep 4 Rangers players that I can think of that would stay in that team. So that's the Sun for you. As far as the record's concerned, again, it's a king-size shambles is their headline. Foul-mouthed and disrespectful is the back page with regards to what went on in the dressing room with Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace. But interestingly enough, Keith Jackson has flipped this in his column in the Daily Record, and he's basically saying that, listen, Graham Murty should be shown the door. He should be giving the keys of the manager's office to the likes of Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace. And it depends on how you like your footballers. If you like your footballers who are winners, who want to see a bit of fight. And remember, there was absolutely no fight from this Rangers team. I thought it was the poorest display I've seen from a Rangers team in a cup match against Celtic, even in a league match, in many a long day. I just cannot believe how inept they were. So Keith Jackson's got an interesting piece where he's flipped it and said, listen, Murty is a lame duck. He'll be out the door in the summer. He won't get the manager's job. You should be maybe looking to people who understand what it's like to win for Rangers. And Kenny Miller certainly does that. But, did he cross the line? And John Hartson's also in the Daily Record saying, excuse me, axing Kenny Miller. It's the easy way out. His contract's up in the summer. No great shakes. He's 37 years of age. They've had their best of him. I don't think Kenny Miller will allow them to tarnish his name, though. There's a story to be told on this, and I'm almost certain he'll come out and tell it. One other paper that I like to have a look at is, of course, The Guardian. And in The Guardian today, would you believe it, the Everton Football Club have sent a survey out to their season ticket holders to rate Sam Allardyce and whether he's getting the best out of the team. The world has gone mad. We've had Crystal Palace sacking a manager after 4 games. Remember when they said they wanted to play a new style of good football on the deck, and then thought, maybe we don't want to do that. Let's go back to start lobbing the ball up to the strikers and see if we can get it off the second ball and win a few games. So they've sent this out to the season ticket holders to rate the manager. Lunacy. You can't make decisions as a board on your own. What is the world coming to? As well as that, there's a feature on, obviously, last night's game. It was a great point for Brighton. That point could go a long way to keeping them in the division. I think maybe Chris Hughton's side need one more win, and they can start thinking about the riches of the Premier League next season again. I must admit, I thought the Seagulls were destined to go straight back down to the Championship. So this would be a fantastic job if Brighton can stay in the English Premier League. Now, the other part here, there's 2 things that I want to draw your attention to, which we'll be talking about on the show at 4:30, is quite simply the England #1 position. Who would you take to the World Cup? Jack Butland in there. Of course, we've got Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope of Burnley, and there's a suggestion here that maybe Gareth Southgate is going to show some faith with Joe Hart. Joe Hart has been the subject of close scrutiny on some of the blunders. Again, he made a blunder at the weekend there for West Ham. It was a poor attempt, couldn't hold it in the first shot, and then suddenly tried to kick it away in the game against Stoke City, which allowed them to score that goal. But nevertheless, Joe Hart, could he be on the plane to Russia for England as maybe a backup keeper with his experience? Who's going to be the #1 there? Jack Butland, Jordan Pickford or Nick Pope? We'll discuss that, as well as an interesting piece in here. Now, this is really going to open up a can of worms in The Guardian. It's David Conn's written an interesting article about Wolves and how they'll be under closer scrutiny when they get into the English Premier League with regards to their dealings with George Mendes, this super agent who's obviously unearthed a few players to join Wolves in some lucrative deals. Now, they'll have to be really open, Wolves as a football club, to the stringent rules of the English Premier League in their dealings with George Mendes, and of course how these deals are put together. So they're going to have to be really transparent, or they could fall foul of the English Premier League rules. So Wolves are heading back to the Premier League next season. I think they want to try and make sure they get the title wrapped up and enjoy the rest of the season as well. But George Mendes, I think they'll be looking at that. It'll be under the microscope in the summer and beyond. Look out for that story gathering some pace. But a good article there from David Conn in The Guardian. So lots to talk about. The Rangers debacle just rages on. You can give us your view on that. 4:30, Ruffy will be with me here in the studio for this live Facebook, live Twitter, and of course we'll be live on YouTube as well. That's a quick look at the back page headlines. You can give us your thoughts as well. Don't forget, get your phone, download the app PLZ Soccer in Google Play and in the App Store. You can also press the video reporter section and record your message, and you never know, your video might feature on the show asking us a question about your favourite team or anything that's bugging you in football at the moment. Thanks for watching.